Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue on with applying sharpening. And if we go back into our file here, the third tab over, you'll see an icon, kind of looks like a cone for detail. And this is the area that you can actually apply sharpening to your photo. And it does work better if you zoom in, and you can just kind of zoom in down here. They suggest maybe even zooming in to like 100% so that you can see the details as you work with this. Basically, the slider, the amount slider will determine how much sharpening that Camera Raw applies to this image. And typically what we start out doing is we exaggerate the amount of sharpening at first. And we actually will slide this all the way up, and you can see how you get that real grainy type of appearance. And as we work here, then we're going to go ahead and adjust the amount after we've worked with the other options we have here. Now the radius slider will determine the pixel area that the Camera Raw will analyze. And for most images we want to keep the radius low. Even below 1 pixel. A large radius can cause more of an unnatural type of look. So we're going to go and slide this down to like just a 0.9. And then we're going to work on the detail slider, and the detail slider determines how much detail that we'll see. And even when this slider is set to 0, it will perform some sharpening. And typically we want to keep this low as well. So we're going to move the detail slide at 25 if it's not already there. Now the masking slider determines which part of the image Camera Raw will sharpen. And when the masking value is high, it will sharpen only those parts in the image that have strong edges. So we're going to move this to a 61. And you can see a lot of those pixels that we had seen in this previously have now tapered down, and we get definitely a much sharper look. And then we're going to go back up to the amount. We're going to slide this down to 70. We're right around there. And we can go ahead into our preview, and we can see that if you're definitely if you're zoomed in, and you may find it a little harder to see on this, but it just gives it much sharper. It's a little fuzzy in the old photo here, and when I go into preview and look, I see just a little bit more crispness in some of the areas of my photo. It just gives definitely a stronger definition to the details and the edges in the photo. The nice thing about Camera Raw as well is that when I save this file, it's going to actually save another file because the original raw file will be preserved, and I can always go back to that original file and make any changes and then save whatever changes I've made into a secondary file and not have to worry about compromising the original file. So next we're going to be looking at synchronizing our images. And if you look up here now, we'll just kind of reduce this a little bit and take a look at our image. And if we're happy with the image, and let's say these images were all shot in the same lighting conditions, now that I've made the adjustments with this one photo, I can synchronize it and have it make the same adjustments to the other photos. And in order to do this, what I do is I hold down my Shift key and select all of the photos. Now, if you notice, the synchronize is not highlighted right now, but once I select all my photos, the synchronize button now becomes active. And again, we can go ahead and apply those same changes to the other two images here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Synchronize, and you'll notice that the settings box comes up. And it's, you can also adjust it if you don't want it to take everything, that's available here in Camera Raw. You could uncheck some of these boxes, but we're going to go ahead and leave everything set as they are, and we're going to hit OK, and then pay attention to the two photos back here. And you notice how they changed colors, and we can even go into that photo, click on preview, and actually the only preview that we'll be able to see is from our old photo that we did before. And actually it doesn't, once we synchronize, it doesn't let us go back and see the old images. Now again, of course, if you think that the colors are still off, you could go in there individually and change the photos if you feel that some of them maybe just also had a different exposure, and this way you can be happier if you need to go in and make those separate adjustments. I have the option of saving the images one separately, or I can save them all at once. And again, as I talked about before, now this box is going to look different than the Photoshop CC that we have here at school. My box is definitely shorter, doesn't give as many options. But we can save this in the same location, and what will happen is you will have the original raw files there, and as well as the ones that we've made adjustment to. And then here in the file naming area, we're just going to go ahead and put mission, and it gives you a file extension to select. Again, if you want to save in layer format, you're working with the TIFFs or the PSDs, but we're just going to go ahead and select JPEG. And it gives you a quality. Now, if you are, say, for example, you're using these files to send to people, it would be, you would probably want to save it at a lower resolution, just because they're just viewing them on the web. However, if you're sending these files to somebody for printing purposes, etc., you might want to go ahead and save it as the maximum resolution. And then you go ahead and save your file. And then when you're done, we'll be able to go ahead and open up those images. Okay, so now that I've selected done, we'll go into the folder where we saved them, and you'll notice that we have our original CRW files for mission, but we now also have 3 files that are saved as JPEGs, and these are the files that will show the changes, whereas the raw files that we had have not been affected whatsoever, and they retain the original details that at the time we took the photo. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and select the mission one and open it up into Photoshop. And it wants to open it up in GIMP. So I am going to drag it into Photoshop CC. Okay, and again it opens it up, but we'll just go ahead and again, go ahead and hit done, and I should have actually opened that up in there because I opened up the Camera Raw file. I want to just do the mission one JPEG. And you can see that the file, actually this isn't the file I want. I guess I put them out of order here. So we'll go ahead and go back to the Finder and bring in the original one, which I'm guessing will be this one right here. Okay, and this is a file that we're going to be working with. And so you notice the JPEG file, of course, now opens up into regular Photoshop. It's not in Camera Raw format. And it is the photo that we definitely made our enhancements on. And we look at the layers. We have just one layer here. And we're going to go ahead and save this. And you can save the file. And again, this would be kind of an added step. This is what the book is telling us to do, but we've already saved this file. But you could make adjustments here in Photoshop as well, but definitely not the same type of adjustments that we had available when we were working in Camera Raw. So the next file that we're going to be working with is we are going to go with our 12B Start NEF file. We're going to go ahead and drag it into Photoshop. And again, as I said before, your Camera Raw files are going to open up into the Camera Raw dialog box here. And we're going to make adjustments on this photo here. And the first thing we're going to do is correct the white balance. And again, as we did in the last segment here, we select the white balance tool right up here. And then we want to click an area, and we know the dress is white, so we're going to click an area on her dress to adjust it so that we get more true whites. And you can see that's made quite a big difference in the appearance just by doing that one item right there. Definitely has given us more colors to work with. And then again, we're going to increase the exposure. We'll do that maybe just a little bit to maybe like 30. I'm going to increase my contrast to 15. And we're going to increase the clarity to 8. Okay. And if we hit the Shift key on the keyboard and go Open Object, this will open in Photoshop. But what it will do is it will actually open it up as a smart object. Okay, so again, we have the ability to make changes to this photo, and if we don't have to make permanent changes as long as we keep it in smart object mode. So what we're going to do now is we are going to adjust the levels and basically the tonal range of the image, which includes the amount of contrast and detail across the pixels, and from the darkest pixels to the whitest pixels. And we're going to use a level adjustment panel in here, and so I'm going to click on that and bring the box up over here, and we're going to go ahead and so you can see that the panel, it's given us the level adjustment panel, and basically what this panel will do, it controls a histogram which displays the amount of dark and light values in my image, and the black triangle here controls the darker pixels, and the white controls the lighter pixels, and then of course the gray controls the midtones. Basically, unless you're looking for a special type of effect, the ideal histogram has its black point at the beginning of the data, and the white point has it at the end of the data here. And you can see that we have probably some burnout areas here in our whites. You can see it doesn't have much information here. And so what we're going to do is on the left side of the histogram, on the left side we have calculate a more accurate histogram, and we're going to go ahead and click on that, and you can see how Photoshop changed the display of the histogram somewhat. What we're going to do is we're going to take this white slider and we're going to move it over slightly so that it hits just the end of the detail on this histogram at the end point of the data here. And basically, as you can see too, that the data also changes here at the bottom of the histogram. You can see the numbers change right here. And so once we finish that, we're going to go ahead and get into editing saturation in Camera Raw. But we will go ahead and